materials can all be accessed at churchofchristevangelism.com, as well as a lot of good resources in connection to what we're going to talk about today. Now, when it comes to evangelism, we need to understand that if the foundations are not in place, evangelism does not matter. A church needs to be strong in doctrine if it's going to be, in God's eyes, his church. If it's going to have its integrity, it needs to be faithful to his word. So we need to understand that. It talks about that in Ephesians 4:12 and 16. A church must be strong in the Bible. A church members that don't know each other, they get together once a year and they don't even know each other's names, is not going to be a strong church. A church should have members who are active in evangelism and strong in doctrine, but they also must be hospitable. 1 Peter 4:9 says for Christians to be in that frame of mind and attitude and action, to be reaching out, inviting others to church. I'm not just talking about the good boys and good old gal club of people that are close friends with each other and just, soaking in each other's presence of people that are real close and just, it's social club and ignoring everybody else. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about encouraging people they don't know, encouraging the discouraged, encouraging the new converts, encouraging the elderly, encouraging the spiritually weak by doing hospitality as individual members. A church should be strong in congregational attendance, love, and encouragement. If a church is to grow, it has to have love. It has to have members that attend faithfully. It does no good to grow people from the community into the church if none of the church members bother to show up. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 says a church needs to encourage each other, get together with each other, support each other. A church that doesn't use its members, only the select few in their little clique, is not going to be a growing church. Romans 12:3 and 8 says that church, each member has a purpose and a role to play. And for church members to feel like they're incorporated, that they belong, that they're not being excluded or ostracized, they need to be included in the worship. They need to feel like they're a part of the body of Christ. And it will help them grow and mature and become leaders in the church if they're used. But if they're not, that will be a detriment to the church and will cause disunity in the long run. And a church must do what 1 Corinthians 5:11 through 12 says. It must remove the leaven that corrupts the body. If somebody's running around the church and sleeping with women, not good. Somebody is in the church and promoting drug use, not good. But if somebody's teaching false doctrines in the church that is destroying souls, that's even worse. Such things need to be removed from the church. Acts 20:28 and 31 says for us that there's going to come wolves, and for the elders to keep their eyes open for wolves. But all of us need to be aware of such dangers. Denominations, they're dying out, and they are doing the exact opposite of a lot of these things. So when people say, if we were more like the Pentecostal church, or we were more like the Jehovah Assembly of the Most High, blah, 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 whatever. That is not the case, because most denominations are winking out. They have food as enticements and games and activities instead of worship. They teach false doctrine. They allow homosexuality and female preachers and instrumental music and all this stuff. They're still dying out. So it's not a matter of sacrificing the truth on the altar of church growth to get growth. The key factor for church growth, once all these things are in play, is Jude 23. Know that verse. Live it, love it, learn it. It is a great verse. To be active in evangelism, to snatch people from the fire and save them. Spiritually speaking, we need to all be trying to do that, snatching people from the fire of hell. Once all these other things are in place, you do Jude 23, and your church will have the right foundations, and it will start growing if you actively and regularly do outreach. This is what they did in New Testament times, and the church grew. Now, people will make excuses about not doing evangelism, and more specifically in this context, door knocking. I've had a preacher come up to me and say, Joseph, door knocking doesn't work. It does work. But some people make excuses that certain methodologies don't work, so they don't have to get out and do anything. I've done door knocking. It requires work. That word that a lot of people don't like. If you do door knocking 1 hour for 1 year and you expect instantaneous results, you're not living in reality. Nothing in life comes instantaneous. You don't plant a garden and expect the vegetables to be ripe and ready the following day. It's a process. It takes time, but it does work. People say another excuse, it is scary. I don't want to be rejected. Yet they are willing to get a new job even if they might get fired. They're willing to ask a girl out even though she might say no. They're willing to put themselves out and try to make new friends even if those connections don't always pan out. People are continually throughout their life putting themselves into scenarios where they might be rejected. Yet at the end of the day, when it comes to trying to save a soul from hell, they are more interested in their feelings than in trying to bring somebody to Jesus Christ. But that is an excuse people make. Another person may say, I don't have time. I've heard that from preachers, my friends. Preachers saying, I don't have time to do evangelism. Paid preachers say that. Can you believe that? Look, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. We all have 24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year. We all have jobs, obligations, responsibilities. Yet some of us take the time, make time to do evangelism, and some of us do not. Another person might say, God doesn't care if I do evangelism or not. If it's in the Bible and he tells us to do it and we don't do it, do you think he likes that? If a parent tells a child to do something and they ignore the parent, do you think the parent are thinking, oh, that's just precious? They do not like being disobeyed, and neither does God. Some people may say in the church, that's the preacher's work. That's why we're paying him money, even though most preachers don't do it. Guess what? That's the Christian work. All Christians in the Bible, Matthew 28, are commanded to go out and save the lost. Some people say, Jesus knows my heart. I'm trying my best. If somebody's trying their best to do what God says, guess what they're going to be doing? They're going to be doing their best. And their best is doing what the Bible teaches. Now, this is a pretty picture, isn't it? Again, it's scary. I understand that. When I first started doing door knocking, I was shaking like a leaf. When I first started doing street evangelism, I was a nervous wreck. When I first started doing campus evangelism, I was all wide-eyed like a doe in the headlights. When I first started doing personal friendship evangelism, a cold approach, I was nervous. But guess what happens? Like anything, who here has ever asked somebody out on a date? Was it not scary the first time doing that? Or scary getting a new job and going to work for the first time? But after a few times, what happens? It gets easier, right? And easier and easier. Doing evangelism is the same thing. You do it, you do it, you do it, and you get desensitized and comfortable to it like in anything else in life. Here's a picture of a bunch of lions, and it says, surround yourself with those on the same mission as you. And when you do evangelism, it does help if you can have people working with you, people encouraging you, people being a support to you. You can feed off of them spiritually speaking. They can feed off of you. As Proverbs 27 verse 17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. If you're into the work and they're making you better and you're making them better and you guys are there for each other, it really goes a long way. You can do evangelism by yourself for hours on end and get results. I've done that. But it does help if you have people that have your back. Now, we're going to talk about door knocking now. So when it comes to this methodology, and it absolutely does work, but it requires a process of investment and a time commitment. But to begin door knocking, like in anything you do in life, you got to pick a time and a day to do something. Picking the time and day to do this event and let people know, especially people that are going to be helping you. Google Maps. I love Google Maps. If you go on that, you can print out the Google Maps, highlight the areas, and pass them out to your evangelism group. Or if you're just doing it yourself, you can just highlight the areas and know where you're going to go. Get the word out. Talk to people. Have the church members make announcements. Get the newsletter going. Get commitments. Have people sign up for the event. Email folks, text folks as reminders. Get the news out. Get the word out. Let people know. Before an evangelism event, not at the last minute, have flyers and tracts and postcards, business cards, whatever, some type of material to pass out made. Be ready. If you're going to do an event, make sure you got everything put together before you go out there. Door knocking preparations. Have church members who are interested and want to teach go over a lesson plan with you before the evangelism door knocking event or any other evangelism effort. Either in a church during a special Bible class or at one's home, teach people how to teach Bible class material in relation to sharing soul-saving news with people, lessons with people, and even new convert stuff that they can share with people. A teacher can teach a class, have folks who sign up for the class, they can get taught, and they can get familiar with the content that the teacher and the class are choosing to teach the lost and new converts. And once the new converts and the teacher have gone over this content in the lesson book, by being in the class, then the students can go out there, and when they do have Bible lessons set up, they will be ready. Encourage the preacher, the deacons, the elders to come. Absent leadership can negatively affect church zeal and outreach work. A leadership that gets behind outreach work will encourage and motivate others. Yet regardless of such support, however, people must focus on getting such work done. Whether you get the eldership and the preacher showing up and the deacons with their no-shows, they're just limp logs, useless, wet firewood that have no passion. They're not burning for the Lord. They just sit there. Keep doing the work regardless. I can do it. You can do it. It can be done regardless. I would encourage you to divide the group when you do have an evangelism group into twos. If it's certainly folks can invite people to church. That can be in also in one group. Have two main groups divided. And one group can, if they just want to invite people to church, they can be in that group that sets out to do a door knocking, and put another group in a category of people who want to invite people to do Bible studies. That's more of an advanced group. For those who are comfortable with doing that, have that in another group. You don't want to pair one guy who just wants to invite people to church with the guy who's going to be wanting to have Bible studies, inviting people to Bible studies as well in the same group, because he's not going to be comfortable going to somebody's home and having a Bible discussion with them. So just two in the group you get together, divide it into two groups, and have one group who's just wanting to invite people to church in that group A, and a group B, more advanced group, inviting people to have Bible studies as well. And it's always good to have the group go in twos if possible. Now, if it's a super, super small group and people are comfortable, and it's an area you guys feel you guys are comfortable with doing this, and you guys can always just go one person alone in two different places as well. A group of 5, they can split up, and each person can be going by themselves. It just depends on the context and what people are comfortable with. Here's a good quote: "The day you plant the seed is not the day you'll eat the fruit." Remember that in evangelism. Some people think we door knocked once a year for 30 minutes or an hour, and we didn't get any Bible studies or baptism, so it must not work. Nothing in life is instantaneous. You don't plant a seed and expect a big old orange tree to be blossomed the following day bearing fruit. It takes time. You got to do the work continually to get the results. Door knocking preparations. You can have backpacks, carry-on bags for people to bring their Bibles, their Bible lessons, their pens, any paper they want to jot down notes if they want to do that. They can also put on these items the handout flyers, all the stuff that they're going to be bringing with them, as well as their Bible lessons, their pens and paper. They can put them inside their Bible as well instead of a backpack or carry-on bag. That's another option. Um, I, I I put tracts and cards in plastic bags, and I give each bag to a group member ahead of time. We meet together at the church building. I give it to each member. They put it in their back pocket and they pass it around when they go through the community. Leaders can have co-workers meet up at the church building and talk about the interactions afterwards. Whenever the group members get together after the church building, at the church building after the work, they can discuss the things they've done. If people ask them Bible questions or talk to them about God or complimented them or in the interest that were shown to them or the prayers that they're asked for prayers, or they people were enthusiastic about something, whatever it is, have them share what they did, the results that they experienced. Have the members share how many people they contacted and interacted with socially, and names, and the names if they get any names, as well as the house locations where they did the door knocking work. It's good to know for them to know, as well as for you to record how many people they reached and how many houses they visited and how many positive interactions people had. Now, a positive interaction is not somebody saying, "May I be baptized?" or "Let's have a Bible study." If somebody is interacting with them and you're sharing Jesus Christ, or you're praying for them, or you pass them literature, or you had a discussion with them, that is a success. That is a positive thing that you did that gave glory to God and had his work done. And the seed was planted when you do such things. What I like to do, I encourage people to come out afterward with me to chat after we do the event and grab a bite to eat somewhere. Chick-fil-A, for example. Later, I text or email the group afterwards and commend their work. If they're working for you and working with you for God, they should be complimented. Too few in the church actually get out and do such work. But some members are actually willing to do that. Encourage them, compliment them, and thank them. Door knocking targeting. Now, this is very important. Very important. Best places to go to work in areas are the poor places and the hurting places. Target these areas. Search on Google for keywords to find areas in your local vicinity that are connected to such demographics. The positives of working and connecting with poor people tend to be they're less guarded, they're less defensive, they're more open and willing to hear the message. They don't have as their mentality where they live, this is my castle. They're less likely to have that. They're not so territorial when it comes for matters of people visiting them. They also tend to be more warm and friendly. Door knocking, street evangelism, campus evangelism has a more receptive response rate in poor environmental communities and locations. So that is an important thing to register. Now, I'm not saying don't do evangelism in the middle class areas or upper class areas. I just want you to be mindful of these truths. Know you can get results anywhere with any financial class, but this demographic is more receptive. Here are some good areas for targeting: housing areas, the projects, government housing areas, homeless shelters, housing areas, recovering drug addict apartment or housing areas, nursing homes, especially in poor areas, ALF, assisted living facility areas run by the government or by charities. Again, this is best in poor areas. Mental ill apartments or housing, government run or by the charity, are great places to go. Disabled or veteran apartment or housing areas, good places. Mobile housing, trailer parks, best in poor areas. I'm not talking about trailer parks like vacation trailer park communities where super rich live. I'm talking about poor trailer park homes. Ghettos are good places to go to. Rundown hotels where the poor live are good places to go to. Battered women's shelters, runaway teen shelters, welfare housing, social security SSI disability housing apartments, good places to go to. Homeless teen shelters are good places to go to. Basically, any place you can think of where people are hurting or financially poor are good places to go to. A good pattern to follow in door knocking. If you read the site below, Church of Christ Street Campus Evangelism.com, Church of Christ Street Campus Evangelism.com, you will read my blog. From this blog, you will see a door knocking effort that was done in a poor area at Northside Apartment. I encourage you to go to this blog and read about the experiences we did. This is a good model to imitate when it comes to door knocking in poor apartment complexes. Check out this link and to learn more about our story with this work. Now, interactions matter when it comes to door knocking or street evangelism or anything. Now, Mormons did a poll, and they did some interesting review work on this. And you can look at that poll at this data site right here, this link, latterdaysaintsmag.com/article, etc. So basically, the point of the poll in the above link article is about interaction. The Mormons in this article are saying if you can get a social dialogue going, creating a social interaction with people, asking them questions, getting conversations going, keeping conversations going, that you're more likely to get a result down the road socially with them than if you just say, hey, take this and walk away. If you're trying to get a result, try to get a communication process going. Mormon folks use dialogue and questions to stir people up to biblical conversations and interest when conversing outside their door. This article is interesting because it lets people know that evangelism is not, here I am, listen to me, this is not effective. Here I am, take this, and you give it to somebody. That's not as effective as having a personal introduction and social dialogue with somebody. When door knocking, talking to people, it's important that you understand that it doesn't always have to be spiritual in nature. You can talk to people at first about their dog, their yard, the flowers up front, their new cut grass, their pretty little baby they have in their arms, their nice sign they have up front about some quaint saying that you like. Just converse with people, get them talking, ask them questions, get them answering. And when you do this, these are stepping stones for other questions that can be about when you talk with them. And they don't seem like they're that inclined to church or Bible study. You can keep talking to them and just bring up the same thing in a different way, talking to them about spiritual things, and find certain questions can be stepping stones for other questions. Like if they say, I'm not interested in church, and you start talking about their kids and how, misbehaving they are and wild they are, then you can just reiterate, well, our church has a great Bible class that may be helpful to your kids. You can re-invite them through a different way, but it's through asking people questions and getting a dialogue that you can use their answers as stepping stones to ask other questions and give other responses. Remember the discussions you have with folks to insert spiritual comments and reminders about church and Bible study. This will get easier over time when doing this work. It's if somebody's talking to them about Jesus and how much they love Jesus, and say, well, you must really enjoy talking about spiritual things and Bible things. Would you like to get together and talk about the Bible sometime? I'd love to hear more about this, and we can share some stuff we know as well. Having dialogue is very important for evangelism. Talk to them about scriptures. Talk to them about their spiritual history, their spiritual interests. Remember, one does not have to be invited into a home to get a Bible discussion going. And when it comes to evangelism, look for opportunities, methods to use, having the right attitude. Method one, when giving an invite, ask if they are saved. If someone replies when you go door knocking, yes, I am saved. When you ask them about this, ask if you could come inside and hear about their salvation story or their salvation experience. Then if they let you in after they share their salvation story or their salvation experience, you can ask if you could share yours with them. They'll be more inclined to hear you once they have heard you have heard them. It's a great way to get your foot in the door, so to speak. And another method to do when it comes to door knocking, if someone is at the door and they say they're a pastor or secretary at church, a deacon of the Baptist assembly, etc., jump on that. Say something like, "You must love talking about spiritual things. Since you are one of these things, you have a spiritual a disposition. You're a secretary, you're a pastor, you're a bishop, you're an elder." Then ask after you say that since you're such and such, you must love spiritual things. Ask them if they'd like to have a Bible study. They'll be more inclined to say yes if you point out first their own spiritual interests and personal investments. A good attitude to have is being of the right mindset. If you think negative thoughts, if you don't want to be invited inside, if you're hating the work, ed tech, guess what you're going to get in results of what you're doing? You're going to get exactly what you're putting out there through your processes, your mind, your body language. Think positive, be friendly, be social. This makes a difference. What you think actually will make a noticeable change in your outreach work. At the end of the day, you don't have to be perfect doing door knocking or anything. Just do it. That's what counts. Remember, you don't have to have everything mastered or be a social expert. You don't even need to do the above techniques, so they can help. They definitely can help. Simply by giving a warm message to invite somebody to church after a personal interaction with somebody makes a difference. A personal introduction can simply be shown through a smile, giving your name, shaking their hand, and asking their name. Then in giving them a warm invite, you can even just smile and offer them a flyer till you get more comfortable. Work on where you're at. When it comes to doing outreach, do your best and give it to God. Always be willing to learn and grow. Don't go through the motions, but at the end of the day, it's in His hands. Do your best, give it to Him in prayer, and continue to try to grow. But go start where you're at and progress from there at your own pace and your ability. Try to enjoy the process and have fun when it comes to evangelism. No, it is a process. It does take time. It doesn't happen instantaneously. Somebody wants to be baptized. You have to do the work. But the process makes a difference. Doing the work will make a difference if you're consistent and regular at doing the work. Don't be so focused on the results that you stress out. That is also important. Look at the result as doing God's work, not in trying to get baptisms. A point at the end of the day is it's good to try to save souls. But if you're growing, if you're sharing Jesus Christ, you are making a difference. You are getting results. Don't stress. Everything will happen in its time if you're consistent. If you're willing to learn, adapt, work, and put in the time, if you work long enough, reach enough people, and are personal in greeting people and introducing self, guess what will happen? Results will follow. You can canvas the same area. Some cool door knocking tips. You can canvas the same area after 6 months. There tends to be different people coming to the door in the community, and not all people come to the same door each time you come. One house may be absent one time, and the next time you come, that house will have somebody come to the door. Also, when you do this, sometimes the college daughter will come to the door. Sometimes the older brother will come to the door. Sometimes the babysitter will come to the door. Sometimes the grandma will come to the door. Sometimes a friend who's hanging out there will come to the door. It can also be different people coming to the door when you do it. Not to mention people moving in and moving out. So you can do the same area again and again and again. Some neighborhoods and apartments will have no soliciting signs. I have gone to apartments, and an apartment I just went to recently had that sign, had no problems, interacted with people, had positive responses. I have gone to poor neighborhoods where they had no soliciting signs, had no issues as well. But if a house has no soliciting sign, you can just leave a flyer because obviously they don't want any interaction socially. And here's an important thing. Don't talk negatively or in any context about people. you've contacted in front of their homes or in their neighborhood. People can hear you talk about them in their front yard. That is not a positive thing. And neighbors can hear you talk about some other neighbor a couple streets up the road. Again, that's counterproductive. It's important to point that out because too many times people just talk right about somebody in front of their front door after they talked with them. Even if there were positive experiences, they talk about them, and that's just not a good thing to do. The myth that says you got to do door knocking on the weekend is false. I ran into the same numbers during the work week. Many moms, grandparents, couples, college folks, stay-at-home dads, and adults who are unemployed or not working are at home. So that is a false premise right there. Looking for opportunities. Get a team together. The law of averages. We're going to cover this. Try to have conversations with people when you're doing door knocking or any evangelism work. Look for qualifiers in your discussions. If someone says they don't want a Bible study but mention how bad their kids are struggling spiritually, offer Sunday school and detail how it can help. If someone is talking about not having a church, or if they mention they are lonely or bored, mention your church and give reasons on the things they mention. Again, let me point that out. Give reasons on the things they mention to come visit. If the person is suffering from depression, offer them Bible counseling. You or your elder or preacher can do that. It may take time to get good at doing this, but with practice, you will get better at doing such work. Get a team together. If you get 10 people who work in subgroups of 2 or 5 people in single subgroups of 1, if they reach on average 6 people an hour, they will reach at the very least 30 people per event. Do that weekly for a month, and that's 120 people reached. And this is good numbers. On average, it's 1 to 200 people that need to be reached to get a result. Again, it can be number 5, or it could be number 10, it could be number 58 or number 137. But the window, the highest, the glass ceiling for that is 200. Mormons have a starting point of their work at 1,000 homes to get a Bible study. That is their stats. Thankfully, our average stats of reaching people are much lower. Again, remember the law of averages. We must reach many people to increase the likelihood of results. Again, it could be number 10 who responds, but the ceiling for reaching such results can be much higher. And I don't know if you're watching this on the slide, if you've ever converted somebody, but there's nothing in this world more gratifying and rewarding than bringing somebody to Jesus Christ. But remember, it's about consistency. To successfully reach people, remember, you have to be consistent. Doing door knocking once a year, every blue moon, is not consistent. It's like going to the gym once a year or every blue moon and expecting results, or dieting once a year for one day or every blue moon and expecting results. You have to be consistent to get results in evangelism, like in anything else in life. Results will come in equal amount and measured to the number of times you reached out and put in the work in doing evangelism. I encourage a church to divide the evangelism group up. For those who want to do their work once a month, set a day and time for that group to work. If some groups are really wanting to do work more often, set a weekly time for the group to get together. Some people are more advanced and they can do this more consistently than others. So those who are not as advanced as others will do it less. But maybe as time proceeds, if people get more comfortable and adapt more and more, they may want to join group B and leave group A when it comes to just doing it once a month. Door knocking needs to be personal. Please keep that in mind. Introduce yourself, strike up a conversation if you can. Remember, start where you're at and grow from there. You don't have to be a savant. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try your best and grow from where you're at. But try to focus on being social and friendly wherever position you are in this work. Those are key fundamentals to try to emulate. Door knocking is best done in numbers. The larger the number, the sooner the results. If not done in numbers, it will take longer, but it can be done. You can get results, but you need to be more regular. If I just did evangelism by myself, I can get the same results, but I just have to do it more because there's less people doing it. You see what I'm saying? Door knocking as an evangelism effort is a process and takes time, but if you do the work and put in the time and are consistent, you will get results. Even if it is just one Christian doing door knocking, if it is done consistently and regularly, results will come. A small group did door knocking with me once a month for a year, one evangelism event for 1 hour. That was 12 events, 12 hours. We got results. The group got results. So even in a very small group, you can get results. I've done door knocking and by myself, and I've got results. Again, if I go in a group, it does help. But if I do it by myself and I'm willing to put in the work, I can even once a month I can still get results. But it does take time. We got to understand that work and time will lead to results. But you got to have those two equations acknowledged. That it's a time process, it's a work process to get the results. What matters most, try not to make the evangelism work about results only. This can discourage you and your work team. Make it about following God's command to fulfill the Great Commission, that of sharing Jesus. That is what counts. If we want to get to heaven, we have to do what the Bible says, and God tells us to reach out and try to save souls. If we want to be followers of Jesus Christ and please God, we got to do what he tells us to do. When you get out and get the team together, talk to them about their good activities they've done and compliment them. Talk to them about the great conversations they had, the people they prayed over, the concerns they heard people share, and let them know the good things they've done and that they are appreciated and that what they did does matter. Remind them of the great spiritual growth you're seeing in them as well. Also remember, if seeds are planted, even if you don't see the results from certain interactions, it does not mean results have not happened. I've had people that have come to the Lord because somebody else planted a seed, and then I came and harvested the fruit. Remember, if the seeds are planted, just because you don't see the results doesn't mean results aren't taking place. Again, I've had people I can think of. Hey, other people planted the seed, they ripened, I talked with them, and they wanted to come to the Lord. So planting the seed in itself, by itself, is a success. So we talked about excuses people make for door knocking, event preparation for door knocking, outreach work for door knocking. There's a lot more material on door knocking at churchofchristevangelism.com. Please go to that site. You can access the ebook on door knocking and download it for free, and a lot of other helpful resources on this methodology.